there's also some person who's gone to some school. And we sit around our fireplace at Kempinski discussing some of these things. I was born a little earlier than him, and I went to school a little earlier than him. He was 1 year behind me in university. It's not something he likes, because I keep reminding him that it matters knowledge. You are my younger brother. But here he is now with his PhD. And so in our next interaction at our fireplace, I do not know what I'm going to say or do, because it will be reminded upon me day in and day out. But that's what friends are for. Well, when he began going back to school at PhD level and started thinking about this book, it is at this fireplace that this discussion was had. So I am part of this project, Barak. But we are still friends. We're still friends. We're still friends. So I represent your friends, both those who are in this room and those who are beyond this room, and especially those who are in the diaspora watching us this evening, to just say congratulations, brother, for a job well done. It's a fulfillment, I know, of a desire you've had for many years. As your friend, I say congratulations.
So you have heard what the friend had to say, nothing to add. That I would be very happy to have those kind of friends any day. But then in French we say, les amis de mes amis. Voilà, et donc autrement dit, comme je suis une amie de mon frère, ça veut dire comme M. Mkeloulé, c'est aussi mon ami, et je m'en félicite. So very quickly, we are going to move to yet another very important group of people that played a crucial role in, particularly in the research level of home and exile. That is the humanitarian organizations. In our program, we have got down UNHCR and RAS. And so one of them is going to be talking on their behalf, and that is going to be Caroline Van Buren. Caroline, karibu.
Thank you. Your Excellency, Dr. Wycliffe Musalia Mudavadi, the Prime Cabinet Secretary of the Republic of Kenya, the Commissioner for Refugee Affairs, John Burugu, Deputy Ambassador of France, Dr. Barak Muluka, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed, good evening. As the UNHCR country representative, I'm delighted to join you in launching this very informative book, Home and Exile, Forced Migration and South Sudanese Refugees in Kenya's Kakuma refugee camp. Allow me to take this opportunity to thank the government and people of Kenya for their hospitality and generosity in hosting refugees in Kenya for decades. The launch of this book couldn't happen at a better time. Kenya is shifting its policy from encampment to integrated settlements. This policy will ensure that refugees are included in service provisions in the country, and together with the host communities, they can benefit from socio-economic development programs in the refugee hosting areas. Kenya is currently in the process of developing the Sharika Plan. I'm sure you've heard about it. If not, it's the government of Kenya's pioneering, innovative approach for refugee management in Kenya, and it's aimed at transforming the refugee camps into integrated settlements, supporting the socio-economic inclusion of refugees and host communities in Garissa, Turkana, and other urban areas. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to stop here. I'm sure we will draw a lot of information from the book. I look forward to reading the book. Once again, congratulations, Dr. Barak Muluka. Thank you very much. Asante sana.
Okay, kindly a round of applause. Thank you so very much, Caroline. So at this particular moment, you are just about to hear from the horse's own mouth, not really? Program doesn't read that. No, never mind. So we are going to hear, therefore, before we get to the horse's own mouth, from, I think, one person who is considered, again, as another friend, intellectual, a person who has played a very crucial role, as it said in the acknowledgement, but not only, because that is someone that's very familiar with Emmanuelia. You heard Emmanuelia being quoted. We've seen him there again and again. A big intellectual of this country. That is going to be Professor PLO Patrick Lumumba, who is joining us on video.
Ladies and gentlemen, permit me to join you this evening, albeit virtually, on the occasion of the launch of Dr. Barak Okwaro Muluka's book, Home and Exile. I remember the story and at once the history of this book. It started humbly through Dr. Muluka's appetite to complete his the highest degree known to man, the doctorate of philosophy. I remember many times when, half in jest, half seriously, we teased him that we look forward to the day when he will complete his education so that history may not record that he was a school dropout. He worked as he should with the dedication and the preternatural equanimity of a sleepwalker, and this is the product, Home and Exile. Barak, Dr. Muluka, congratulations. You have completed the journey, but yet, as Socrates said, the only thing that we must know when we take one step in education is that we know nothing, and that what we must do is to continue to be good students of all things. Home and Exile is a book that is situated in the history of migration. And Dr. Muluka says correctly that the history of human civilization has been the history of migration. And it is migrants in certain cases that have brought about revolution and seismic changes in different parts of the world. But yet, what his book focuses on is migration of another kind. Forced migration. The world was the witness to such migration at a time in history when human beings fought against one another and created circumstances that became inimical to the survival of others in their places of origin. So that when the United Nations organization or the bodies preceding it came up with conventions dealing with the whole question of refugees, it was founded on the realization and the recognition that when people are dislocated from what I call their aboriginal homes, they needed to be protected by law and protected in a manner that would not undermine their human dignity. Home and exile deals with that. Home and exile is arrow directed to the specific circumstances of refugees who were originally from what was in the early days southern Sudan, but regained independence as South Sudan. Barack Muluka speaks with authority, writes with passion. Barack Muluka tells of the plight of the refugees who came from South Sudan and found themselves in the camps, particularly in the Kakuma camp. It must have been, as Barack narrates, that they thought they would go back home, but that was never to be. He speaks about it with the dexterity of a researcher. He writes about it with the rigor of a scholar. And Home and Exile becomes alive because as we launch Home and Exile, the problem of refugees and the problem of migration is with us. I take you to pause for a moment, even as we launch this book, and look at the mother continent. Look at the conflict in Sudan and the refugees that it is generating to South Sudan itself, to Egypt, to Chad, to Libya, and to different parts of the world. Look at the Sahelian region, the conflicts in northern Mali, the terrorism in Burkina Faso, the situation in Central African Republic, the situation in Somalia, and one can go on and on. And the reason why being sensitive and alive to this reality is critical, because it gives Dr. Muluka's work a currency which is unique. This book, therefore, is a reminder not only to scholars, but also to policymakers, to the politicians, that whenever we conduct ourselves, we must never forget that our acts of omission or commission can create a breeding ground which can lead to migration, forced migration. The kind of migration that dehumanizes, the kind of migration that destroys, the kind of migration that makes people leave their homes, the kind of migration that is undesirable. So today we are gathered here today to celebrate a scholar who has fulfilled his scholarly duties. We are gathered here to celebrate a Pan-Africanist who is sending an unequivocal message to Africans at all levels that the problem of migration, the problem of refugees is a live problem. And if you read, as I believe you will, the concluding chapter of Dr. Muluka's book, he says that the time is now that Africa and the world must ask the question, how are we going to solve the refugee problem? And solve it we must. All hands must be on deck. All men and women of goodwill must take a solemn vow that they are going to do everything in their power to ensure that we solve the problem of migration, forced migration, which produces refugees. To my politician friends who are present in this assembly, take
I usually say to younger people that always imagine